Welcome back. It's construction finance time. So as you can see, only the blue cells you need to worry about, and you do not have to worry about what's happening here. But I will explain what's going on here. First things first. The first thing that you have to select in construction finance is the type of which funding option you are going to go with. For example, we had four options here that we discussed in the previous video. Lenders Calculator TDC, or you are going via the total project development cost, or you're going with project gross realization value. So which of these are you going to go with? So over here you have a drop down and you can select the one that you want to go with. So in this scenario, we have already selected Lenders Calculator TDC, and I'll change that and update it and I'll show you what happens. But let's say the one that we've already got selected, because we already had selected when we press the save and refresh button, it did all the calculations based on that. So what this is saying is that land loan is being paid out at 1.2. Why? Because we refinanced it, and over here we paid our 1.2 million right here. So they will consider that as part of the total development cost, and then you'll have a debt available for construction. This is only for information purposes. Everything that's grayed out is either to prompt you or tell you, that that's the number for you, for example. So, and developers equity is going to be based on the number that they have calculated. So in this scenario, we selected Lenders Calculator TDC, so it picked up the debt that we had, and then developers equity was calculated based on that. Our construction interest rate, everything got picked up because we had already put in these values when we were setting up the project. And all these other things, I'm not gonna change them. If you want, you can. So loan setup fee could be 0.5% or 1%. You can change that to 1% if you wanted to. And you can then select, the method you're gonna use to actually forecast them. And then you've got line fees. I'll leave that out for the time being. And construction mortgage registration fee, $250, something like that. But for all these changes to take effect here, we will have to press save and refresh. But when we do that, I'll change the method here to show you a different number. But now that we have Lenders Calculator TDC selected over here, let's look at what's going on. So if I just zoom out a little bit, and let me just collapse everything on the side and just open the construction finance. So you see here what's going on. So it's doing its calculation, telling you whatever developer's equity balance that you started off with. So that's the money that you are paying, and every month that money is getting depleted because you are carrying the project. Then you've got lenders construction loan balance, so whatever money that they've given you is based on. So they will go from the start of the project, and you'll see that no money has been drawn out from the lender's approved loan, but it will start getting it will start getting used, because as you progress towards the project, this is where you'll find that this is when your construction is starting. So here's another thing. This calculation is based on this method, where the 99% or 9 out of 10 times, that's 90%, 9 out of 10 times you will find that the lender will force you to use your equity first, even if construction has started. And let's say you get to frame stage, or you have progressed 3 months into construction, and that's when their money is going to come in. So remember that the way this calculation works is that it takes into account that you're putting up all the money up front up until it is absolutely necessary for that means that your total developer's equity that you've come up with has totally been exhausted. So your equity has been used up completely, and then the lender's drawdown can happen on the approved loan amount. Here's another thing. They might approve a loan for you for, let's say in this scenario, $6.5 million. However, they will calculate this interest on $6.5 million based on your development, and then take that interest out and keep it as a reserve and not release that money to you right till the end. They always do that, and I got caught. I was doing a 12 townhouse development in 2016, and that is the first time I was dealing with not really first time, but I had dealt with a lot of hard lenders where the lending was a lot more flexible. But as soon as I started dealing with the major banks and everything just got everything just went crazy for me. So that's where I learned how to figure all these things out. So what they did was they said, okay, we'll give you 63%. And the first thing I learned was, whoa, in the funding table they would not consider half my cost. Whereas before the projects that I was doing with all the hard lenders, and they were lending me based on my total sale value. So I always had more money. But when I went to a major bank, and then they basically said, whoops, that's not your TDC, this is your TDC. So they went with their TDC. So I said, okay, give me 65% of that TDC that you've come up with. They said, okay, we'll give you 65% of that TDC, but your interest amount is going to be about 160,000. So we are going to hold that back from the amount that we're going to release to you, so that they've got their interest up front already. So that is what this feasibility takes into account, and you will find that this happens all the time, and that is how it is calculated. In a way, even if it doesn't happen, it actually creates a buffer for you, because you do not want to be in a situation where you run out of money and the bank says, whoops, you haven't got X amount of money in there, so we're not going to go ahead with it. So you don't want to be in a situation where you run out of money midway in a development. So that is why these things are there in this. So your construction interest costs are 197 based on what we are going to borrow, because they are calculated based on a drawdown amount. So they are calculated as and when the money's coming out, as and when the construction is kicking in, as and when the total developer's equity that you had to come up with is getting depleted, because they've basically asked you to put in money in here. So this is important. If you don't want to look at it, don't look at it. In fact, if any of this actually intimidates you, you can create your own template and select all of this and go and basically put everything, just clean everything out. You can just don't delete anything, but in your template, turn all the text into white, so you don't see anything. You only see the blue cells here, and only the cells that you want to see. So you can select all of this and turn your text white and save that as your template, so that it is not bothering you or what is going on, because it's basically, you don't have to worry about what's going on. I'm just explaining so that you have a better understanding of what is happening and how the construction finance is calculated. So before we go to the next section, I'm going to change this to let's say project gross realization value or other. So if I change this here, open this up, so we are now going with 20 million, and we will be able to borrow 60% of it. That means my equity would be 8.175 and the debt would be 12.262, so to speak, which basically means that there is more money available for you, and your developer's equity that you will need to put in the project will not be 8175, because you'll be able to borrow more. In fact, this money will cover most of the expenses here. So let's just press save and refresh and see where we are at. So after refreshing, you'll notice that here your effective LVR is 100.89%. How did that happen? Well, it happened because there was more money available for you to borrow, and that is why this method of just going straight with the gross realization value is not correct, is not completely correct, because in any circumstances, all these things have to be taken into account, and that is why I have this other option, which is your manual option, and in that, even if you're going with a hard money lender, they will consider a value and say, look, we consider total amount of development cost or gross realization value as X, and we will fund 70% of it or 60% of it or 40% of it and so on. And that's why effectively you'll be able to use the lender's Calculator TDC or the total project development TDC or this other option. This option where we have project gross realization value, it basically considers that considers a very big amount, and all these calculations have to be done manually to come up with a number. So even if you are going with a hard money lender, all you have to do is come up with a number that they are considering as a total cost or the total sale value of the project. Put that number in, put in the value, and then you can come in over here and select other. So if you select other, it will do the calculations based on that. And you will notice when you do that with the other option that you've got, and you click save and request, that means you'll be putting in more money. So instead of 5.6 million, you'll be putting in 6.5 million. So this could be a good balance. So they might come up with a value which is 11 million, for example, or 12 million, or 15 million, or whatever they could come up with. But they might have a very low LVR over here. So you will have to assess this, talking and discussing these things with various lenders or your finance broker who can help you out navigate this easily. So this is the important bit that you need to understand, and I'll see you in the next video.